The latest Red Sox roster move looks a little bit ridiculous on the surface, but it actually does make some sense. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. Actually, before we get into the video, though, I did want to let you know we are going to be live right here on this channel tonight to watch the Red Sox take on the Colorado Rockies in the series finale and to see the season debut of Masataka Yoshida. These are a ton of fun. We always have a great time on these live streams. It's going to be again tonight right here on Red Seat Radio, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll see you all there. But before we get to that, before we get to the game, we got to explain this roster move because yesterday the Red Sox made a couple of moves that had a lot of people scratching their heads. The reason for this is because the first thing that they did is they called Isaiah Campbell up from AAA and actually added him to the 40-man and 26-man roster. And I assume hearing the name Isaiah Campbell brings back, I would say, not so fond memories for a lot of Red Sox fans who watched baseball last year, because the first time we saw Isaiah Campbell was in 2024 and he only pitched 6 2/3 innings with the Sox, so it's not really that great of a sample size. But in those 6 2/3 innings, Campbell gave up a staggering 13 runs, 12 of them were earned, 14 hits, 3 home runs. Hey, he only walked 2 though and didn't hit anybody, so I guess there is some positives on the back end there. But regardless, his first stint in Major League Baseball was, for lack of a better term, god-awful, right? That is simply not good statistics coming into for Isaiah Campbell to the Boston Red Sox last season, right? In fact, it's disgustingly ugly. But, you know, he's been a little bit better in AAA this season. It was a small sample size, right? This season in AAA, he's sitting at a 3.89 ERA and 40-ish innings this season with a similar 3.75 FIP, a nice low walk rate, which is great, a pretty average strikeout rate. So you sit there and you say, hey, maybe the Red Sox were able to fix something with Isaiah Campbell, right? He ended up going down with an injury last season, then we just never heard from him again. So I don't know, maybe there is something here to it, but this wasn't really the total head-scratching move, right? I think some people sat there and they said, oh my God, why are we even mentioning Isaiah Campbell on the Boston Red Sox ever again? I remember a couple of people in live streams were like, he should never touch the Red Sox field again. But here he is. The sort of head-scratching part of this, to get Isaiah Campbell onto the big league roster, optioned Richard Fitts. Now, right off the bat, you go, wait, what? Richard Fitts, isn't that the guy who's coming off of one of the better starts he's had in the 2025 season so far? Going up against the Rockies, he went 5 2/3 innings, allowed just 2 earned runs, struck out 6. Looked like he really figured something out in his latest start. Why are we rewarding that with him being optioned down to AAA? Well, you know, baseball's a little bit of a tough business, right? The rosters in baseball change more than really any other sport in any professional setting. So there's that part of it. But 2, I actually don't think this move has anything to do with Richard Fitts himself or his performance on the field, right? I think it's just unfortunate timing for Fitts, because if you look at where the Red Sox are at right now, they're in the midst of a 10-game stretch, right? A 10-game stretch where they are playing games every single day. We all know that this bullpen has been kind of beat into the ground already for the first half of the season. Once they get to the All-Star break, they'll get a nice couple of days off. They'll be able to get those arms nice and rested heading into what many consider to be the second half of the season. Basically, you just need to get to that point, right? And with the bullpen where it's at, you simply need another arm. With Fitts, it kind of makes sense here, because what you can do is you can option Richard Fitts down, you could bring Isaiah Campbell up, and all of a sudden, you've got an extra arm in that bullpen for the next couple of days, right? You can utilize him. I would be dumbfounded if I saw Isaiah Campbell in any sort of high leverage role over the next couple of days, but instead of having to use a Weissert or a Murphy or a Wilson or Whitlock or anyone like that in a situation, you don't really need to have one of those bigger names in there. You can go to Isaiah Campbell. For example, last night, if Brian Bayo wasn't able to finish out that complete game, which, by the way, we have a short of on this channel if you guys want to take a look at what Bayo did last night. But if he wasn't able to go the full 9 and you were up by, 10 runs at the time, you could have just sat there and said, why don't we let Isaiah Campbell go in there, right? If he gives up 3 runs or 4 runs trying to get 3 outs, doesn't really matter, right? You just need somebody to be able to close out this game for you. That's exactly the role Isaiah Campbell's going to be in when he's with the Red Sox. It's just simply, the answer to this question is he's just simply simply a warm body, right? That's all he is. He's a guy whose arm is relatively fresh compared to a whole lot of the other arms in the Red Sox bullpen right now. He's a guy that you can use in these low leverage situations where you don't really care kind of how many runs you end up giving up. Just simply get us to the next inning type situations without having to use a guy like Weissert, who's been absolutely beat into oblivion this season. So that kind of makes sense. But then you may sit there and you may say, Corbin, well, wait a second here. That's all fine and dandy, but Fitz still had another start before the deadline, right? He had 5 days in between starts. That would put him starting again Saturday for the Boston Red Sox. They can't go with another bullpen game. That didn't look very good, did it? No, you're absolutely right. On top of Isaiah Campbell coming up here and Richard Fitz being sent down, you also have Hunter Dobbins, who's getting much closer to being ready to come back to this Red Sox team. So not only do you have Isaiah Campbell, who's going to be a fresh arm in the bullpen, you also got Hunter Dobbins, who now kind of easily slots in, right? I don't think anyone's going to miss Isaiah Campbell being DFA'd once he ends up getting DFA'd probably Saturday so that Hunter Dobbins can come back and make his start, right? So you've kind of lined yourself up perfectly. Fitz makes his start. He gets optioned down at AAA. For the next 5 days, you've got an extra arm in your bullpen ready to go in case of emergency, basically. And then you just slot in Hunter Dobbins and it's all fine and dandy here, right? So again, you take a look at it and you say, whoa, we're rewarding Richard Fitz with, being optioned out of AAA. That's terrible. You're right. It is kind of terrible, but it also really kind of is smart for this Red Sox team, and I actually think this is a pretty intelligent move by the Boston Red Sox. Now, on top of this, again, like I mentioned, you also had to get him on the 40-man roster. This one's just sort of an added layer to all of this. They ended up moving Liam Hendriks over to the 60-day IL. I got to be honest with you, I don't know that we ever see Liam Hendriks in a Red Sox uniform again. This time it was because he had some sort of setback in his injury rehab process to the point where he's going to get a second opinion on what the rehab process should look like over in Boston somewhere. You only got a couple months left of Liam Hendriks' contract, and he just simply hasn't been able to stay healthy. I have a feeling that in the next few years here, he's going to end up being more of a trivia question than he is a real impact on the 2025 Red Sox. It just feels like one of those guys where you sit back and you go, hey, whatever happened to Liam Hendriks? Like, where is this guy? And he's just been sitting on the IL for, 6 months or whatever it is. So, not really a huge part of this. I think more people were scratching their heads at the idea of Fitz getting sent down and Isaiah Campbell coming back up than they were really concerned with the idea of Liam Hendriks going on the 60-day. But I hope I did a pretty good job explaining this one to you guys. It's not the only move we have to talk about, though. The other thing I wanted to talk about is we got the first of the 2 moves required to get Masataka Yoshida back into this Red Sox lineup, because last night after the game, Chris Cotillo reported that the Red Sox are going to be sending down Nate Eaton back to AAA in order to get Masa onto this 26-man roster. I actually really like Nate Eaton as a bench piece for the Red Sox. He started the last 4 games against the lefties. He actually did pretty well outside this last game last night. I don't think he got a hit last night, but I mean, he was coming up with some pretty big moments while he was starting for the Red Sox. I actually thought he might have been a pretty good bench piece for this Red Sox team, and I still think he could be. The problem is you just don't have room for him right now, right? Bregman's very close to coming back here. You don't really have room for a third baseman or specifically an outfielder, right? And those are the 2 places Nate Eaton plays baseball. So yeah, it kind of makes sense, especially with the idea of Bregman coming back. Now, I know a lot of people are going to sit there and they're going to say, how the hell did David Hamilton make it through another round of someone coming back and staying with the Boston Red Sox, right? Outside of Money Mike, shout out Mike. Everyone's kind of sitting there saying, well, I'd rather Eaton over Hamilton right now, and I think that's absolutely correct. But again, you have to remember that Bregman is right behind Masataka Yoshida's heels when it comes to coming back from the IL, right? This one makes more sense in terms of just simply Nate Eaton has been playing a whole lot lately. There's a righty on the mound for the Colorado Rockies tonight, so he's probably not even going to get into the game. It just sort of makes sense situationally right now for the Red Sox, right? You just sort of look at everything combined, you say, okay, you can kind of figure that out. I would have to imagine that Hamilton's the move when Bregman gets back in these next couple of days. If he's not, and it's Marcelo Meyer, then I'm going to have a little bit of a fit, right? I'm going to cause a little bit of a scene when that happens, if that happens. But for right now, I'm assuming that it's Nate Eaton now, David Hamilton in the next 24 to 48 hours, because it really sounds like Bregman's within that time frame for coming back to the Boston Red Sox. Now, there is a couple of interesting tidbits I did want to include here with this Masataka Yoshida stuff because we've been talking about so much where he's going to play. Well, yesterday, before the game, Roman Anthony was spotted taking some drills out in left field, working with the monster and stuff like that. Interesting right off the bat. And then actually, Alex Cora kind of confirmed that Roman Anthony tonight is most likely going to be starting in left field with Masataka Yoshida as a DH, which obviously is going to raise some eyebrows because, hey, you got a guy who's been playing left field the entire season in Jarren Duran, who last night also hit the furthest home run in Fenway this season and has been really swinging the bat pretty well lately over the last week or so, really started to come into his own. But we've talked about this, right? This is just sort of what's going to end up happening here. I don't know that it's any indication that Duran's the one who's going to get traded or anything like that. I just simply think the Red Sox are sitting there and they're saying, look, we have too many players and not enough spots, and someone's going to have to sit. This is how it's going to go in the first iteration, but we're probably going to see, Duran in center a couple of times. We're probably going to see Roman and Wilyer switch spots a little bit. Maybe Wilyer takes a beat off a couple of days, right? This is just simply what we're going to see until the Red Sox make some room out there, regardless of which direction they end up going, whether it is trading Masa, which I've seen a lot. I just don't think it's going to happen. Trading Duran, trading Wilyer. I don't know if Cedon or Roman are really going anywhere, but those two also, you know what I mean? Like, you sit there and you say, this is just sort of how the Red Sox have to operate right now. This is just the first iteration of it. So I wouldn't look too much into the idea that Roman Anthony's going to be playing Duran's spot tonight. I think Duran's going to get back in there pretty quickly, but it is definitely something interesting to note. So a lot of information in this video, right? A lot of information coming at you really quickly. So let me know what you think, right? I sit here with the Nate Eaton stuff and it's like, yeah, okay. Like, I would rather him over Hamilton, but I understand it. I think I hopefully explained why the roster move the Red Sox made yesterday actually does make some sense. It's not just sort of something the Red Sox are throwing, a cupcake at the wall and hoping it sticks or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. I sit here with all this and I think it does make sense for the most part, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton. Best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you guys want to listen instead of watch, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. I will see you tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Red Seat Radio. And as always, in the Red Seats.